Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Cutter One. I'm your host, JJSJ, your resident troublemaker, your resident culture warrior. I hope you're all doing well as we chug our way through this Monday, the beginning of the week. Grr. I don't know, Monday gets a bad rap. I think just, because of its placement. I don't know. It's just, nobody likes Monday. I don't think anybody likes Monday. Even people who don't have to work on Monday or go to school on Monday don't like Mondays because Mondays, for them, it's boring because everybody else is at work or school. Right? I know I used to, years ago, I had a job and my days off were, it was like Sunday. I'm sorry. I had off on Friday during the day, right? Now, most people would think like, oh, you get a 3-day weekend. No. I had to come in on Sundays, but I was off on Friday. So my weekend was technically Friday and Saturday, right? Which completely screwed up my entire social life because my Thursday night or my Friday night was technically Thursday night. So, normally on a Friday night, you're going to go out with your friends, go out to dinner, whatever. My Friday night, I wasn't going to do anything because it was technically Thursday night, and everybody I knew had to go to work the next day except me. And it also meant that even though it was my day off on Friday, and it was good because it allowed me to get some errands done with like things like going to the post office or things that may have been closed on the weekends I could do. But other than that, it was freaking boring because everybody I knew was, at work, right? And everybody else's Friday night was the equivalent of my Saturday night, right? And so everybody then would be off on Saturday, right? And I would be off on Saturday during the day, but that was they were beginning their weekend. For me, that began to feel like Sunday because while they're all going out Saturday night and going to be partying till the wee hours of the morning, I was having to go to bed at a reasonable hour because I had to get up in the morning to go to work. Now, I understand. It's part of adulting. You got to do what you got to do. I get it. I'm not complaining about that. But it did sort of have this sort of impact on my social life. So that's why I understand that even for people who don't have work or school today on a Monday, it's still kind of a sucky day for them because, the rest of the world is out doing its Monday shit. And, they're just sitting at home like, man, can't wait till everybody gets out of work or everybody gets out of school so we can hang out or something, right? Anyway, the point being, nobody freaking likes Mondays, right? So we'll just chug right on through it and just keep our eyes on the prize, which is right next weekend, right? So we'll just work our way through the week, and hopefully it'll be a good one for everybody, right? All right. So speaking of which, this is the article of the day where I just go, can you believe this shit? Like, can you really believe they're saying this shit out loud? Right? This is one of those articles where I'm like, see, this is why I'm constantly calling these fuckers out. This is why I'm constantly calling them out. So let's get right into it. This is coming to us from Ben Hardwick. We've read his stuff before from CBR.com. A Galadriel movie should be a top priority for Warner Brothers' new Lord of the Rings slate. With Warner Brothers announcing new Lord of the Rings movies, a Galadriel solo film would be perfect for tying the Rings of Pewter to the cinematic universe. Let's not do that. All right, let's get into it. Let's see, what do we got here? Warner Brothers is bringing The Lord of the Rings back to the big screen, and fans are left wondering just how much is planned for the future. While there could simply be another trilogy and nothing more, it feels that this age of cinematic universes is a sign of what's to come. And if Warner Brothers really does plan on telling stories beyond the Lord of the Rings books, then the perfect place to start would be with a solo Galadriel movie. The idea of multiple solo movies can definitely cause some worries, especially since they'd have to stray from the stories author J.R.R. Tolkien told. Let me pause this. Okay. Stray from the stories J.R.R. Tolkien told, but it's also easy to forget just how much lore Tolkien created for every character. As most have a surprisingly clear timeline leading up to the events of the Lord of the Rings. So while solo movies would have to expand on the characters more so than Tolkien ever did, there's a general premise already there to use, with Galadriel being a prime example. Why the fuck you keep doing that? Go away. Galadriel's life before the Lord of the Rings. While the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Pewter, is covering Galadriel's life during the Second Age, there are still thousands of years before Frodo begins his adventure. In this large gap of time, Galadriel helps defeat the Dark Lord, befriends a young Gandalf, and later helps create the important White Council, a group of individuals that hunts Sauron and watches over Middle-earth. Galadriel even helped push back Sauron 500 years before the Lord of the Rings, as she repelled the Dark Lord's invading forces around Dol Guldur, the fortress in which Sauron rebuilt his strength. So, not only would this be an intriguing story to tell for a movie, but it would also set the stage for Sauron's return in the new Lord of the Rings trilogy. Galadriel would connect the Lord of the Rings cinematic universe, and that's the real crux here. Okay, there's still no word on whether Warner Brothers' new movies will share the same universe as Prime Video's bullshit show. I'm sorry, The Rings of Pewter. But it would be a huge wasted opportunity if the movies and shows ignored one another. And there's a rare chance to tell an overarching story from the beginning of Middle-earth all the way up to the end. And if this is the way things are going, then what better way to bridge TV and cinema than to use Galadriel from The Rings of Bullshit? Pewter. Crap. It would immediately show casual moviegoers that the two mediums are connected and bring fans of the show on board. Plus, it offers a rare opportunity for the cinematic universe. While most characters constantly change over the thousands of years through Middle-earth history, Galadriel would be a constant tying it all together, especially since her hunt for Sauron lasted the entire time and would finally come to a close in The Lord of the Rings. No matter which movie comes first, Warner Brothers needs to tread carefully with this beloved franchise. The first project to release has to prove to audiences why this new adaptation needs to exist and show that this new cinematic universe is able to honor Tolkien's creation, rather than butcher it into generic fantasy tale that'll be forgotten, like the shit show that you're trying to hype here, Mr. Hardwick. All right, so let's get right into it. Absolutely not, no fucking way would I ever be on board as a Tolkien fan with them linking this crap show to any of the films. And I don't think Warner Brothers is going to do that, to be honest with you. I think this is a lot of posturing for the Amazon shill folk out there who want it to be. Now, they've already specifically said, right? They've specifically said that this show is not in the same Lord of the Rings universe as Peter Jackson's movies. They've already said that. Right. But they have also said, Warner Brothers has also said, that the War of the Rohirrim, which comes out next April, is in the same universe as the movies. Okay, as Peter Jackson's movies. And I think any future Warner Brothers movies should do the same thing. They should stick to tying in with the previous Warner Brothers films and the War of the Rohirrim, and not try to connect with this thing. Right. I also like how he points out that, by bridging them, you would bring fans of the show over to the films and stuff like that. Well, if anybody's a real Tolkien fan, you're going to be fans of these films, if they're done correctly. If you're a fan of the Rings of Pewter, I would question how much of a fan of Tolkien you really are, because clearly you have no problem with deviating from the lore and completely throwing it out the effing window. Okay? If you support taking Morfydd Clark's Galadriel from the show and building movies by Warner Brothers or New Line around that specific character, that iteration of Galadriel, in order to tie them in together, Okay, clearly, then you have no regard for the lore. You have no regard for the story as it was originally written. You have already, by supporting that concept, shown that it is more important for you to try to bring fans over than it is for you to stick to the lore. In other words, what Tolkien actually wrote about his universe and Middle Earth is the first casualty in your quest for more money. And as far as I'm concerned, you can keep that shit, Mr. Hardwick. We ain't buying it. The fans ain't buying it. No. What Warner Brothers should do, Warner Brothers should put out a trilogy film on the fall of Numenor and show fans how it's done right. And you know what? If they do, and they adhere to what Tolkien wrote, and Peter Jackson is on board, and he does it the way he did the original adaptations with Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens, right? They can show exactly how crap this show on Amazon is, okay? That alone will win the hearts and minds of Tolkien fans, okay? Seeing Warner Brothers put out movies that show how it should be done compared to that shitty show will win the hearts and minds of Tolkien fans. And that's what Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema need to focus on. Okay, that's what they need to do. Don't try and bring Morfydd Clark and her Galadriel non-existent character adaptation into and connect it with the work that Peter Jackson had done on The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Don't do that, Warner Brothers, at all, ever. Show because Amazon is trying to tell the entire Second Age. Okay, and they've already screwed the pooch. They've already thrown lore out the window. They've already thrown character histories out the window and changed things to being almost not recognizable, right? What Warner Brothers, what you should do, if you're listening, anybody from Warner Brothers or New Line, what you need to do is, if Rings of Power decides that they're going to show the fall of Numenor, which they at this point almost have to, or they're going to show the War of the Last Alliance, which at this point they almost have to, okay, then Warner Brothers needs to put out a trilogy of films about that, the fall of Numenor or the War of the Last Alliance, and show the world how it's supposed to be done. Like I said, that alone will that'll put you over the top. The same way Peter Jackson's adaptation of the original books did, right? They weren't perfect, and he did have to change some stuff, but at the end of the day, Tolkien fans, 9 out of 10 of them, love Peter Jackson's adaptations because he did one very crucial thing that almost no other Hollywood adaptations at that time, or definitely today, are doing. And that is, he stuck to the lore. He focused on the story that Tolkien wanted to tell. He didn't turn around and quote unquote want to write the book Tolkien never wrote. Okay? He wanted to tell Tolkien's story. Okay? And that's what separates the two. And as long as you're not willing to acknowledge that, the Ben Hardwicks and the CBR.coms and the Screen Rants of the world and the Colliders and other Shill Media and Amazon executives and Jennifer Salke and Sanders and the cast and crew of Rings of Crap, as long as you're not willing to admit that's the way you should be going, right? Trying to tell the best version of Tolkien that you can, as long as you're not going to do that, your show is not going to win the fans. You're not going to win Tolkien fans by destroying what he spent his life creating. Okay, and you haven't, and that's why your shit gets ratioed, and that's why you have to inflate your numbers, and that's why you have to put out this like, oh well, it's the most highest viewed show ever that Amazon has produced. Yeah, which means nothing. If Amazon, all you're saying is that yes, we made the show, and it's the most popular show we made, but it's still crap compared to other shows. Like, there are crappy Netflix like C-level shows on Netflix that have more viewers and outshine Rings of Pewter. That's why Rings of Pewter in the Nielsen ratings didn't show up. They had to count the top 15 because it came in 15th. If they counted the top 10, it wouldn't have even been on the list, right? So anyway, that's my thought. This is the type of nonsense that I've sort of always been sort of rallying against, right? Is you're going to see more and more of this. Like, they realize what the Warner Brothers New Line announcement of them getting back into making Lord of the Rings films means for them. Again, I told you, it was a warning shot across the bow, right? That's how Amazon was taking it. That's how Amazon is going to continue to take it. And that's how you're going to see these shill medias come out with these nonsensical bullshit ideas like this. Like, oh, you know what they need to do? They need to take and make an entire movie that follows the story of Morfydd Clark's Galadriel so that it ties in the show with the movies. So this way you have this like crossover fan bleed and stuff like, no, okay, no. As a Tolkien fan, if you know, I don't need to interact with people that think that Morfydd Clark's rendition of Galadriel is awesome sauce. I don't. Okay, you can keep that shit. Keep that shit in your little wannabe make believe TV cubbyhole or whatever. And I'll just stick to my authentic adaptations. Thank you very much. And remember, people. We are the fans. We are not obligated to buy into any of this crap that you hear the mainstream media, the shill media, or Amazon putting out there. You don't have to give them your money, and I would highly recommend that you don't, right? Because they're not going to listen to what we have to say. That's an established fact. When season 2 comes out and I start criticizing season 2 and I start pointing out nonsensical bullcrap that they do, we all know he's an ist, he's a phobe, he's an incel, he's a this, he's a that, whatever. It's all about me that has the issue rather than them having the issue, right? And we know, so we don't have to support them in any way, shape, or form. And I highly recommend people don't. Hit them in their wallet. That's what they listen to. They're not going to listen to your opinion, okay? They have their ideological agenda, which they will roll. They're a billion-dollar corporation. They're going to roll with it. But if you hit them in the wallet, that's what affects them. That's what gets their attention, okay? Disney's learning that right now the hard way, okay? The DCU and all these other franchises that were unstoppable years ago are being literally canceled left and right now because the fans have said, we're done. We're not going to see your crappy movies. We're not going to sit there and have Brie Larson or whoever lecture us, about, how Miss Marvel is so awesome because she's like a woman. Like, people are tired of it. Fans are tired of it. And you got to hit them in the wallet because that's the only way they listen. And so, yeah, as Tolkien fans, we don't have to tolerate this nonsense. This is laughable. I will honestly say that Ben Hardwick, out of all the articles that I've gone through of yours since I started this channel in October, and I've laughed at a bunch of crap that you and other folks have had to say, this is by far the most laughable thing I have ever heard. Okay? And God, I hope that Warner Brothers and New Line do not do this. Okay, if they want to kill any hope they had of winning the fans, okay, they'll follow your advice. Okay, if they want to win the hearts and minds of the Tolkien fans and stuff like that, they will ignore everything you freaking said in this article. Okay, and that's all I got to say about that. But let me know what you folks think down in the comment section below. It's still only Monday, folks. We got a whole week to get through. All right. Like I said, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. And remember, if you like the video, then like the video. If you want to subscribe to the video, okay. See, you already got me all. Okay. If you like the video, then like the video. If you want to share the video, then by all means do so, because it helps us with the YouTube algorithm. It gets it seen more. It gets people on board and viewing the video, and other Tolkien fans being like, hey, cool, there's other people like me that are out there, right? So feel free to share it around and tell people like, hey, check this guy out. He's kind of cool. He's kind of funny. He's kind of weird. If you have not subscribed yet, I would hope that you would consider joining the army of beautiful badasses as we hold the line for high fantasy and the professor and his works, and try to hold some of these big corporations accountable, or at the very least call them out for their nonsense, right? Provide a counter, if you will, to their spewing of garbage, right? So I would hope that you would consider turning that red subscribe button a gray. And if you are a returning subscriber, as always, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You guys and gals are the reason I do this. Remember to go join us over on Discord. We have lots of cool discussions going on over there. Excuse me. And also check out the merch store. Links are all down below, as always. And yeah, that's going to do it for this one. All right. I think that's going to do it for Monday. So hopefully we get through this. Go home, have a nice cup of tea, a cup of coffee, put your feet up, relax, have a good dinner, spend some time with your loved ones, right? And just chill out and draw a close to another Monday. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this one. Remember, as always, be good, be safe, be awesome, but more importantly, stay more dorkish. Until the next time, peace.